your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you, observations, comments, questions perhaps concerning some of the issues we'll be talking about this morning on the local dailies, that is the Standard and the Daily Nation, largely about education sector. Perhaps we are taking a break away from matters politics and just focusing on other issues. So those are some of the topics that we'll be talking to you about this morning. So please feel free to talk to us across our feedback lines. SMS is 23059 or our WhatsApp number, which is on your screen. So let's get this show started, shall we? Now, the High Court has temporarily suspended the National Police Service's recruitment of 10,000 police constables and officers following a petition by human rights activist Eliud Matindi challenging the exercise. Justice Bati Mamuye issued conservatory orders on Monday, November 10th, 2025, directing that the recruitment notice issued by the Inspector General of Police on November 4th be put on hold until the matter is determined in court. The orders apply to all respondents and interested parties, including employees, agents, and related bodies involved in the recruitment process. The court also directed that the petitioners serve the application, petition, and court order to the respondents and interested parties immediately, with proof of service to be filed by close of business on November 12th. The respondents are required to submit their responses by December 11th, while the petitioner may file a rejoinder by January 9th, 2026. The mention is scheduled for January 22nd to confirm compliance and discuss the expedited hearing of the application. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has cautioned Kenyans against crossing into neighboring countries in pursuit of justice or political engagement, warning that freedoms enjoyed locally, especially freedom of expression, may not be guaranteed elsewhere. Speaking during the opening of the three-day Kenya Software AI Summit 2025 at Moi University's School of Law in Eldoret, Mudavadi expressed concern over a growing trend of Kenyans traveling abroad without understanding the legal and constitutional differences in other nations. Mudavadi further warned young people to be mindful of their online behavior, noting that social media activity is now being closely monitored by foreign governments.
Me to speak as a Kenyan. In the last few weeks, we are also experiencing a situation where we are having a lot of interventions for young people. Some for good causes, some for adventure. I just want to encourage you. The world has become what it is. Let us defend our Constitution. Let us protect our rights. Let us consolidate our rights in accordance with our Constitution. But again, please remember, the moment you step beyond Kenya's borders, it's not the Constitution of Kenya that applies. You enter a sovereign state with different regulations and different laws. My prayer is that our young people, as they enjoy their freedom, please be cautious. It is absolutely important. We don't want to lose any Kenyan. We don't want to have any young life obstructed. So as you go out there, as we develop these skills, just bear in mind that there are some basic issues that we must not abandon. There's an African proverb that talks about break the chains and you gain your freedom. But if you cut your roots, you die. It may seem fashionable to disparage the president and to ridicule the president and to ridicule Mudavadi and to ridicule every other person because it looks fashionable. But I'm telling you, it will not be fashionable when you find that your visa is being denied. So enjoy this space, make good use of it, but do what is ethical, do what is right, because we want you.
Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei has sparked controversy after publicly supporting the arrest and alleged mistreatment of Kenyan activists Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo in Uganda, calling for stricter measures against them at home.
Speaking at KG Church in Kapsabet on Sunday, Cherargei praised the Ugandan and Tanzania authorities for their actions and urged Kenyans to follow suit, claiming the activists' activities threaten regional peace. The church where the remarks were made quickly distanced itself from Cherargei's comments, emphasizing that the church does not support statements that may divide Kenyans. Despite the backlash, Cherargei has refused to apologize for his remarks, standing firmly by his position.
Mheshimiwa Museveni alikubali kuachilia kina hawa Bob Njagi na wale wengine activists. Wezi enda kwa nyumba ya mtu unaanza kukorogana. Mimi nataka nimuulize Mheshimiwa Samia Suluhu Hassan, Mheshimiwa Museveni, I want to ask President Museveni and President Samia Suluhu Hassan, if you get any busybodies activists who want to destabilize the sovereignty and the peace and tranquility of your country, finya hawa, warudishe nyumbani tuwamalizie.
Every country iko na sheria na tabia zake. Tuheshimu tabia na mienendo za watu ya huko. Au namna gani? Vile vile wale uheshimu tabia na mienendo za watu ya Kenya. Si namna hiyo? Ili tabia zetu na mienendo zetu izilete vurugu katika eneo letu Afrika Mashariki.
Interesting remarks right there by Senator Samson Cherargei. For him to, at this point in time, not stand with the Kenyan activists, who, by the way, were unlawfully detained, and there are no charges that have been placed against them, whether they were, inciting rioting in Uganda or were being funded by foreign forces, as Museveni had alleged. There was no evidence against it, and so a lawmaker should be one of the people at the front line supporting and calling for accountability from the Ugandan government. But Cherargei.
Getting back, if people can remember what happened, I think these people's passports were stamped at the border, and they were arrested immediately after entering Uganda. So I'm trying to look at the accusations that can be leveled upon these two activists from Kenya. And such a person who's a legislator in Kenya, the authority in charge, to say that rudisha hao watu nyumbani wakuje tuwamalizie. And yesterday, and that's why yesterday even we were talking about the three key characters who were placed on the Standard newspaper yesterday. It's like you have to do something, then after you see the results that are so negative, that is the time you regret and think of mending or even repairing the places or the areas that you've just put into wastage. Now I'm looking at the sediments from Cherargei, and later he came and he's trying to explain what kumalizia means. And I'm wondering, why should you throw out a word and later you come to explain to us how it means? Actually, it's very open that kumalizia, it means that you have to clear out with everything. You don't want to this, because number one, we're looking at the abductions that have been taking place in Kenya, the same happened in Uganda, and these are our people. And our person, who is a legislator, is supporting what other presidents are doing to our people, which the accusations are leveled upon them are not true. I mean, it's just, for lack of a better word, despicable for those kind of words to come out from Cherargei's, and despite the backlash, he still stands firm and defends his opinion, or at least what he thinks is the right way. And that is not the right way, absolutely not. So we'll just be looking to see, like I said yesterday, we're waiting to see what the government's response, the Kenyan government's response would be, because those, the admission by Museveni just paints a picture of the sort of
diplomatic, you're allowing things to happen in the name of diplomacy, trying to protect the diplomatic ties between two nations, but there has to be a line drawn, because I'm thinking if this was something that happened in let's say the European countries, there would have been a lot of accountability and protest around it, and so we'll be looking to see exactly how this pans out.
Have you been very close, or even have you neighbored a disturbed neighbor who just releases their chicken into your field, and once they are there, you just attack them, and if you attack them, they are not supposed to ask for anything, or even you're not supposed to get back the chicken from your field. So this to me, that's how we are behaving as a country. It may be from our leaders those are the kind of words and statements that we can hear from them. So I think you can't compare a chicken to a person in the name of an activist. So I think our leaders need to be very responsible of what they speak out.
Because they represent, for instance, Sheragay, you've been elected by the Nandi County. So you're not just speaking for yourself, you're actually representing people, and it's not just about that as well, because senators are largely keeping county governments in check. So it's not just about Nandi County, but also the Kenyan country at large. Elsewhere, former Botswana President Ian Khama has criticized the swearing in of Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan, refusing to recognize her election.
Speaking at Lukenya University in Makueni, Khama alleged that President Samia forced her way into power by oppressing Tanzanians during an election that resulted in the deaths of hundreds of citizens.
Meanwhile, in Tanzania, the court case against opposition leader Tundu Lissu did not proceed on Monday, leaving the matter pending.
The recent election and what transpired, the killings around that election, I, for one, do not recognize the person who was inaugurated as the president. She is an illegitimate president. It is totally unacceptable when an African leader, in order to stay in power, will resort to killing his or her own people. In order to stay in power, will rig an election as if they are God's gift to their country. Recently, we saw another inauguration of a 90-something-year-old president in Cameroon. 90-something years old, who can hardly walk, but still wants to be.
The Teachers Service Commission, in collaboration with the teachers' unions, has announced that all teachers will now be covered under the Social Health Authority (SHA).
The announcement followed a meeting between TSC, the unions, and SHA officials, where the benefits package under the new coverage was presented.
The decision comes after addressing key concerns raised by teachers, including the provision of group cover, elimination of pre-authorization hurdles, and full disclosure of participating hospitals and benefits.
Union representatives expressed optimism that the move would streamline healthcare access for educators and ensure transparency in service delivery.
What we've agreed is that we are transitioning to SHA with effect from 1st of December 2025. As you are aware, the medical scheme for teachers under Minet is coming to an end on 30th of November. We are working towards a seamless transition of our teachers to the new medical scheme.
Society which now existed prior to this meeting is been allayed, and because it has been allayed, it is official that we hope the Teacher Service Commission will do all the due diligence such that the teachers of this country benefit from excess of loss and also the ex gratia. I think these are the take homes that they are.
We have an expanded network of providers, This will be much improved from the current offering that Aeon Minet has. We're looking at expanding this list to include level 6 hospitals, level 5 hospitals, level 4 hospitals, level 3.
All right, allow us to take a quick break at that particular point. But when we come back, we'll be talking more about that story that you've just seen on air on the teachers' health insurance plan and why it's causing some bit of controversies within the education circles. And so that conversation returns as well as the newspapers after the break. Don't go too far.
Thank you.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world. You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
EBN TV cares about the growth of your business. To advertise with us, call 0725 386 501 or 0740 653 453. EBN TV, transforming your world.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Schools of just how the people that have been put at that particular administration level as a principal are not people who are very empathetic, are not principals who value staff, are not principals who have got the welfare of their staff on the forefront. Because if you're going to be withdrawn from your maternity leave, we all know in this country, at least constitutionally, 3 months of maternity leave need to be granted to women. It may vary. With private sectors, we've got companies which give up to 6 months of maternity leave. Others go for 4 months, but at least it should be a minimum of 3 months. But if you're 2 months into your maternity leave and then you're being withdrawn from the leave to come back and teach, and who gives the order? The principal. And in these cases, she could be actually as well be a woman who's gone for a maternity leave before, and without that understanding that you've got an infant and you need to be with them for these 3 months, then already they have gone against your rights. They have gone against the Constitution. They have violated your rights as a mother. We're also looking at scenarios where teachers want to resign, but they're not granted that that answer over yes to resign. And if it's not that way and you decide to leave your work that way, then you're going to lose some of the benefits, perhaps years of service, the 1 month salary notice that you're supposed to be granted, and any other benefits that may be to it. And so principals are custodians of a group of people, and especially young, mostly young children, could be in high school or head teachers in primary school. And so you expect them to be able as well to put their staff first, the teachers first, because if a teacher is not in the right mindset, how are they going to teach a learner or teach a child if they are very disturbed and very worried about the treatment that they're getting? So it's quite sad, really, that this is happening actually just under our noses.
Yeah, sure. And I'm looking at a place whereby you're supposed to get back, you're out of you had gone for maternity leave, then you're supposed to go back before the 3 months are over. You've already violated the teacher's rights if she's a lady, and I think also male.
Yeah, paternity leave.
Yes, they go. It's not one gender thing. It is from both. So I'm looking at it. If you are just given 3 months to rest, maternity leave, I think the health experts are very sure of what they are doing. And if you come as a principal because you have the power and the authority and you dictate these people to get back even before their leave is over, I think there are issues that, there are some effects that you get from mothers and when they give birth, and if not taken care of very well, I think something may go wrong. And you are forcing this person to come back to class, and they've left maybe their 2-month-old baby at home, so they'll never be settled when teaching, and they've come back by they are forced to come back to work. So I don't expect that they deliver. So I think principals should take care of all this, because we are all human beings, and there is a way you're supposed to perform if exposed through a conducive environment. If the environment looks a bit dictatorial for someone, or even it's like it is punishing someone, I think you can never deliver. You add something on the side?
Yeah, and this should not just apply to principals, any employer for that matter, especially if you're leading a very big group of employers, but it shouldn't really matter whether you've got a company with 1,000 employees or you've got a company with 10 employees. Just basic human decency, you know, if they're sick, allow them to go home and heal, or go to the hospital. If the maternity leave gets here, give them their 3 months. If the paternity leave should be 2 weeks, I believe, so grant it to them. So it's just basic human decency, and just you know, as much as you want to be the boss at work, you need to also empathize with your employers. After all, at the end of the day, as you go back home, you also go to your family, right? So allow them as well to go to their families.
And you will not be a boss in your own family. You have to be a family person. And page 4 of the standard is talking of teachers clash with principals, TSC court. So I think this is something forced maybe from the TSC, because if you're posted somewhere as a principal or a school aide, I think there are regulations, there are laws and rules that you're given so that you can administer, or even you can lead the school well. But here it's like this is done by the principals, and again, because of the employer TSC, it's like they are caught doing something. And I can just read 2 statements here. Cases of authoritarian school aid teachers bring out challenges faced by teachers nationwide to light, and online testimonies by tutors paint a picture of employer neglecting their welfare. So if you just need to read all of this story, just go to the standard page 4 of it. You'll just know what happens in our schools, and maybe from the principals or school aides to the minor or even to the junior staff.
All right, perhaps I just link the education matters as well with the top of the page headline story. I can see it's also on page 6 of the standard, and this concerns the medical cover for teachers. So Daily Nation reads, teachers split over SHA medical cover, that is Social Health Authority. Now, just hours after top officials of teachers unions signed a deal with the government to migrate the medical insurance scheme of over 400,000 members to SHA, a section of tutors have expressed displeasure, citing a lack of public participation. Primary school heads attending the annual meeting in Mombasa termed the transition rushed and opaque, and warned of a backlash in the upcoming union elections. Now, this is a story that is on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation, just to perhaps help you understand where there's this dispute. Now, the teachers have been using privately owned insurance called Minute Insurance Limited. And this is what teachers have been using for over at least a decade now. And, you know, it's a privately owned insurance, and so it's on select hospitals, not across all hospitals, about 800 hospitals in Kenya. Now, should be perhaps in September, where the president met teachers at State House, if I remember correctly. And, you know, one of the things we are talking about is that provision of medical cover through SHA, Social Health Authority. And some of the teachers disputed it, the union officials supported it, as well as SHA officials supported it. So starting December 1st, which is in just a few days, all teachers will be getting medical insurance under the Social Health Authority. And this means they'll have access to about 9,600 hospitals. But the big question is, why are they against SHA? Now, most of them allude to the fact that they do not understand SHA itself. And I think that's the biggest problem, not just for teachers, but for most Kenyans. They still don't understand how SHA works. They still don't understand what they benefit from SHA, what they don't benefit from SHA, what covers SHA, what does not cover SHA. So that is one of the biggest grievances by the teachers. They do not understand this Social Health Authority. Number two, they claim that there's a limit, cap limit on just how much can be covered or how much SHA can cover some of the diseases. While for Minet, you could have been able to cover at least more of these medical conditions, or more money goes into the medical conditions. But for SHA, it has been capped. For instance, normal delivery will be at 10,000 shillings. Cesarean section will be at 30,000. Dialysis will be at 10,000 per session. Oncology care, this concerns cancer, is up to 400,000 shillings per member annually. So if you're a member who's battling cancer and your medical bill goes above 400,000 shillings, you'll have to dig deep from your pocket. Now, critical care is up to 28,000 shillings per day for 12 days. So that means if you go for 13 days, the one extra day, you're going to cover for it. Specialized surgery up to 1.1 million shillings. Overseas treatment up to 500,000 shillings per year. So some of the teachers feel like it has limited them already, especially with the critical illnesses. Now, another thing is that it covers up to 5 children. So if you've got 6 children, that one child, you're going to have to pay for them through the pocket. So these are some of the grievances that they have addressed, they have voiced out. And they've also blamed union officials of not conducting public participation and going behind their back and approving this. And they've said, you know what, so we've got elections coming up of union officials, we'll punish you at the ballot.
Yeah, sure. Cynthia, I'm looking at a place where we're transitioning from NHIF to SHA. There's something that we've had discussion on for some few months ago, and I'm looking at a place where you've measured about public participation. And again, I also look at these there are traditions that you are brought up with, and that is something that, like long time ago, we used to have radios only, when we used to have KBC just alone as the radio station. Now transitioning, like now as we're living, we have a lot of technology. So it is very hard for someone maybe who is 65 years or even 70 to be familiar with the technology that we have right now. So if at all they have to be exposed, or even they have to be introduced into this new technology, I think there need to be a good environment to make sure that maybe you coach these people, you train these people into knowing something before they transition into it. It's like, for example, you take you a media person in there, then you are taken to dispensary somewhere as a nurse. Now, where will you start treating someone? Where will you start taking care of a sick person? So the same thing comes to the issue of NHIF to SHA, or even now, this is Minet. This is covering teachers for a good time now. And it's like they are being forced immediately into SHA, which, number one, they have to know that if, like their bosses, they need to take care of civic education maybe to the teachers. They have to tell them now, maybe we've looked at what SHA is covering, if at all, because they have accepted to transition to the same after declining for a very long time. Now, this is to mean if we have normal delivery being catered and at the rate of 10,000 shillings, this is to mean maybe if they're not introduced into maybe public participation or even civic education to at least unveil what is in the docket, I think there is something, maybe Minet has been paying more than 10,000. If you go to maybe issue of cesarean section, which is paying 30,000 for the activity, I think Minet has been covering a lot. So maybe if they don't want to disclose what has been happening, or even the reason as to why they may want to take teachers from Minet to SHA, I think there is something they want to cover. Maybe they've looked at Minet maybe has been a bit expensive, or even as far as government payment is concerned. But when they are transferred to SHA, maybe there's someone taking advantage of the same by capping the rates or even the charges for some services.
Right, and so it's going to have to be a very critical, because it's a public policy that is being put in place. They need to really involve teachers in this, because as you said, some feel like they're being forced into it, and one of the teachers says that the president had promised an improved medical cover and not a compulsory transition, because they're making it compulsory. Now, there are some of the things that are being covered that have been highlighted on the Daily Nation, but one of the advantages that, you know, SHA has got over Minet, at least according to officials, is that it provides faster service delivery. It's prioritized attention for teachers' healthcare needs, access to care of chronic conditions without pre-qualifying requirements, and emphasis on total teacher awareness and buy-in of benefits. So they've got a huge task ahead, NAT officials, CUPET officials, I believe TSC officials, as well as the government, to just do that civic education to teachers on why we're transitioning you to SHA as opposed to you still remaining on the Minet Consortium Limited Insurance. So huge task ahead. And I think that's one of the biggest problem we have with government in terms of communication, is that you're not properly communicated to about a decision or a directive. And you wake up in the morning, it's done.
You're transferred.
So then now the government works backwards. You know, we've registered you, yes, but this is why we have registered you. That's not essentially how it should be. Have the teachers do the county trips, school trips, talk to your director of education to talk to teachers. Have teachers come in, ask questions. Why are we moving? Is there a problem with us having additional benefits to Midnet, you know, and etc. Because if you have a teacher who says, I still don't understand SHA and why you're registering me to SHA, but now you want me to have SHA as an insurance cover. So big problem, and that's a huge stumbling block for progress in Kenya.
I've been looking at where everyone comes from, and I think everyone comes from a teacher. So I think teachers should be taken maximum care of, because I'm looking at the event where they're transferring teachers from Minet to SHA, and they are all systems. And I think if at all they are migrating, the systems Minet can also be revamped to make sure that it covers or even reabsorbs all that is not in Minet, that is in SHA. If it's about taking care of an issue immediately, or even not taking too long to serve, I think the same can be taken back to Minet, and the same will work. Because forcing, or even it's like you're being transferred from an environment, and you are told, now this is what you'll be doing from here. Before you're transferred, I think you have to be prepared mentally, psychologically, in that when you get to that place, it's like before you sit for your exams, you have rehearsals, you have to prepare yourself mentally, you have to revise. But yet you find yourself in a very, very strange environment. And there, that is the time induction is done, that is the time what do we call it, when you're introduced into a new thing. That is the time you are told, this is what you will be doing. And there is no exit route. Once you're in, you're just in. There is no way you can exit from that.
Right. So we'll be listening into just teachers' concerns. They're still with, you know, on their Mombasa retreat, the conference that is currently in Mombasa. So the TSC head will be there today. The acting Teacher Service Commission CA, that is Evelyn, will be there today. Tomorrow we're also expecting more officials, and perhaps this is an issue that will be addressed. Now, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, was supposed to kick off a tour in Kenya at the end of this month. And unfortunately, he won't be doing that because it has been cancelled. So why J.D. Vance won't be coming to Kenya, that is the headline as well. Now, the directive by US President Donald Trump has attracted international attention. What directive? And this is the directive of President Trump barring American officials from attending the G20 summit in Johannesburg, South Africa, where Vance was to lead the US delegation before flying to Nairobi. So the G20 summit was set to happen, or is set to happen, this month of November. And so, you know, it's a top summit of key international leaders and presidents and heads of states and governments going to Johannesburg. But the president of US, Donald Trump, has said no American delegation will be attending that particular summit. And of course, this throws into perspective the international diplomacy and the international stance of the US, especially concerning matters African. And you know, it's a new administration, came into office in January of this year. So they have taken a step back in so many things, including AGOA as well, which we spoke about here a few weeks ago. Probably a few weeks ago, he's taken a step back on that. I took a step back as well on the tariffs. We saw the tariffs war they had with Chinese. And so basically a new administration, new set of faces, new set of policies, new set of directives. And so unfortunately, the US Vice President will not be coming to Kenya and will not be stepping foot in Africa. Neither will the US delegation that he was set to be accompanied with.
I'm linking this with the issue of Africa, and these very few presidents, like they are on our heads and on our minds like every day. I'm looking at US is a very big country. It's very rich, and I think they are very much disciplined, and sometimes they don't want to identify. I mean, I think it's the issue of then quote not trying to identify themselves with maybe what's happening in Africa. Maybe they've got different interests in Africa, but they're looking at what is happening from Paul Biya. They're looking at what's happening, and the summit is supposed to take place in this country, Kenya.
In South Africa.
And in South Africa.
Yes.
Yes, so I'm looking at, and Nigeria, there is the Christian genocide with what's actually still taking place in Tanzania right now, because they're still not at rest. And maybe what has been taking place in Kenya as far as demonstrations, the Gen Z's demonstration, the protests are concerned, and another African country. And I think yesterday we saw the three presidents of East Africa on the same page. And I said Museveni's son is trying to threaten people who may try to cause volatility in Uganda. But I'm looking at a place whereby we have elections in Uganda next year. What are they expecting? Why can't they learn from what has been happening in Kenya and Tanzania as well, so that they can allow key people like USA Vice President to be coming into Africa? And when such things happen, when such summits happen, I think it is a benefit and advantage to this country. But because of power politics and greed and lust that covers us all as Africans, I think there are some of the key things that look as such that will not allow these people to not to be stepping in this place.
Right, and you know, one of the grounds of the reason why Trump cancelled that is because he accuses South Africa of human rights abuses, especially for Afrikaners, at the hands of black majority. Now, you know, South Africa is one of those countries where you've got the white population as well as you've got the black population, and essentially a white could still be a South African, you know, citizen. And so what Trump says is that this group of people called Afrikaners are going through a lot of abuses at the hands of the black majority in South Africa, to which, you know, South Africa has termed those remarks as regrettable and says there's nothing like that happening. And so going just by the basis of his own, I'd say, observation, Trump, that is, of human rights abuses. I mean, within East Africa, there's so many human rights abuses. If you talk about extrajudicial killings, if you talk about detention, arrests, intimidation, threats, those are human rights abuses. And so, you know, just it paints a picture of perhaps the trajectory of what is happening in or within African countries. But this could also be something could be read entirely different as well. That means perhaps US is no longer the financier and the countries people want to go to when they're looking for loans. They'd rather go to the Middle East. They'd rather go to Asia, to the likes of China, Japan. They'd rather go to Europe, talk about UK, talk about France, to just be able to develop their nation. So it takes a huge diplomatic shift, and I'm sure diplomats will be sitting and reading into this particular cancellation of J.D. Vance's trip to Kenya or to at least Africa and South Africa, and what this means comments as well from this point onwards.
I've always been concerned why something is already done, it's seen everywhere and across the globe, and someone is ready to stand and refute all that has been happening. When we spoke of genocide that is taking place in Nigeria, I think there is a leader who came out strongly and courageously and said that this is not happening, and we can see. And I think as media, a lot and 100% of what we do is communicating the truth. So I don't imagine this guy from South Africa is saying that that kind of mistreatment from the whites, I think it's not happening, and it's happening. Why do they have to reject? And before maybe someone like Trump cancels such summits or even such visits to maybe Africa, is land. And I think you have to send an advanced team to go and survey the environment, to look at the security issues around the environment. Now, such a president, Donald Trump, trying to cancel all this, and someone from South Africa is rejecting this is taking place. I think we have to be responsible, we have to be accountable and question or even answerable of everything that we speak out, because it's already picked. Once you speak it, it's picked, and people use it very well.
Right, so we'd love to wrap it up at that point on the newspapers this morning. We hope that you're duly informed really on the latest making headlines across the newspapers this morning, especially within the education sector, as well as, you know, that particular trip cancellation, which are largely some of the stories highlighted. KCSE exam week 2 continues. And they're set to complete at the end of this month. So we continue to wish them all the best as they ramp up their KCSE, or at least their 844 system venture.
Thank you for following us. Thank you for keeping there with us until this time. This is always Morning Live. This is where we speak out every truth. This is where we share out every new thing coming in. Now, if you've any suggestion, any question, maybe any complaint, our social media platforms are open at EB Kenya, EBN TV Kenya, or across, and our SMS line always 23059. Cynthia, we're exiting, but what are we expecting after this?
Well, coming up at the top of the hour is Your Faith with Reverend Felix Kavoy. So keep watching, yeah? Don't go too far. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. I bid you a wonderful morning ahead.
My name is JKS. We wish you a good day and a good morning. Please stay tuned for the show coming in, Your Faith today.